Happy Thursday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead, another episode of Drank and Champagne. Andrew, Preakness is over. The second leg of the Triple Crown did not have a repeat winner. We will not have to get an asterisk next to the possible Triple Crown winner this year due to the distance. I'll hit the boo button for you because you're already making faces for
Thank
that whole
you. I
discussion.
appreciate that. And this is why I love doing this show with you, because I know that you are going to see every single thing that I put on my Twitter account and be ready to bring it up and draw it like a gun when we start recording. I appreciate that. Kyle Levy from FanDuel TV and I went back and forth about the potential need for an asterisk, and I may well need to write about it because it's getting to where people in horse racing are throwing around the concept of asterisks as something that goes against something they disagree with. And that goes way too far for me. And with that in mind, no, we will not have a Triple Crown on the line at Saratoga in a couple of weeks when they go a mile and a quarter for the Belmont Stakes. Having said that, Josh, this is a good field if everybody that can show up does show up. You've got the Kentucky Derby winner. You've got the Preakness winner. You've got the Kentucky Derby runner-up who may very well go off the favorite over the two horses that won the prior two jewels of the Triple Crown. You've got some other very nice horses. I believe they're looking at a potential field of 10 for the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga. And that's going to be a lot of fun because if you were listening to anybody in April, my goodness, you think the sky would be falling as far as, these Triple Crown races are only going to draw 5 or 6 horse fields, whatever. The Preakness did just fine. The Derby did a hell of a lot better than fine, given all of the records that it broke for betting and viewership. And Josh, Belmont's going to do just fine too.
Yeah, it'll be good. I'm interested to see how the event goes with it being in Saratoga. So I'm thinking Mark is going to be there. So I'm interested to hear his feedback on how the event goes. I was going to try and go, but with just the extraordinary prices they were charging, which were in almost always more expensive than the Saratoga meet normally is, which is already prohibitively expensive if you don't have a I don't know, maybe a parent that lives close by. So
hi, Dad. How you doing? Love you.
but yeah, so I like what it would have cost me to probably do 3-4 days up for Belmont would probably have been more expensive than doing an entire week in Saratoga. So
Yep.
I know we were talking with our good friend Matthew DeSantis this last weekend or last week when we covered Preakness, and we were talking a little bit about our like what we're thinking about doing for Saratoga, and it sounds like you and I are planning on going the same weekend again. Mark, of course, will be there. Caleb is going to be, I think, going up a couple weeks before that. He's going to have to try and get settled in for his new gig, I think, by Labor Day. So, so anybody who's around and in town, obviously reach out to us on Twitter or what. I mean, glad to meet up with anybody. I remember the first time I went to Saratoga was pretty funny, and this was this pre On the Wrong Lead? No, I think it was. We had just started doing stuff, and in the Discord with the from Reddit, we're kind of all of us that met and kind of this all started. People were constantly like, "Oh my god!" Like it was like, "Hey, are you guys here? We're gonna come down and see you." And like, so me and Mark were there, and it was just really fun. It was just cool to meet all a bunch of people. And every time I go, I meet somebody new, and I'll say meet because most time it's people who I've interacted with online. Last year, our friend Road Warrior came by and talked to us for a while.
Hello, Andrew.
And he was a blast to talk to. It's the one of the best parts of Saratoga is just the people, right? Seeing the people and seeing you know we met for the first time I think in person last year because I know the year before that I wasn't able to go. So yeah, it's just such a cool place. I tell anybody I know that is interested in horse racing whatsoever, you gotta get up to Saratoga. So that's gonna be exciting. Content wise, I think with the streaming, we're probably not going to stream this week tonight, and next week is probably also a no. But we're going to try and get some other content out there. Obviously, drink and champagne is coming at you at a weekly basis. You got to be shot tinning me. That stuff will always be up there. But I think with Belmont, we'll be planning another big, maybe multiple big live streams because I was taking a look at the stakes calendar and it looks like it's going to be three days of stakes. Actually four, but 3 days of graded stakes racing, and so Thursday I think they have three stakes races listed. I think Friday they have four, and then Saturday obviously the Belmont Stakes and all the great undercard races. So we'll have plenty of stuff out there for you. So obviously make sure you guys are subscribed, and you'll get yeah we'll have tons
All
of
the
stuff out there
buttons,
for you.
all the
Yep,
buttons,
all the
people.
buttons. And then once we get into the throes of summer racing, I think we're going to be back to the weekly streams, and kind of keep that up once again. And obviously, if you haven't noticed, it's not just the On the Wrong Lead channel where you can catch us and our content. Obviously, we've been doing a lot of stuff with Matthew over at Naira Bets. Yep, I see. Well, I'll give him a little clap. Our good friend, he is killing it over there at Naira Bets. I'm loving everything he's doing over
All that I
there.
will tell you is if you have never heard of Assiniboia Downs before this week, chances are you have now.
Yeah, and Mark and I opening night, I was on with Matthew for 3 days, and it was kind of funny. I'll tell this story. He kind of sent out like a group call, right? Like, hey, who's going to join? And so I'm like thinking, I don't know, probably be like three or four of us on here. It's going to be kind of a while, and it was just me and him. And I was just kind of like, oh, Mark didn't show up. I figured at least Mark would be here. But it was fun. Him and I chatted about Assiniboia Downs. He had tons of great stats, which is kind of his thing now. He's pumping the track stats. He's getting all that information up on Naira Bets, which is really cool. So yeah, so obviously you'll catch us over there as he asks us if we're available to do stuff. Obviously, our good friend the Wolf of Oak Lawn with his podcast. Andrew is a very regular guest, myself as
I'm
well,
going
and
on
the rest
this
of
week.
us. Yep.
I'm talking the Pick 5 on Saturday at Aqueduct, I believe. I need to double check on that, but we're recording that Friday morning, so that'll probably be online at some point on Friday. And yeah, Chase's podcast it's a great time. And the last couple of weeks, he's gotten some heavy hitters on his show. So by all means, if you're not already following him, go follow him. It's his birthday week. Give him a present. He likes attention. Give him some attention.
Yeah, and what's even better is on June 22nd in Joliet, Illinois, at the Hawthorne Racecourse OTB, the Club Hawthorne in Joliet. It sounds like myself, Mark, and Caleb are going to be on site at the OTB, and we are going to be throwing a pool party. So basically, the way Hawthorne does this is they give the guests $1,000 bankroll to bet, and for I think uh, the the buy or the tickets are $35. It gets you basically some type of appetizer or lunch buffet kind of thing, and basically whatever money we make off that thousand, we split it with all the people who go ahead and buy a ticket. So it's a fun way to support my local track now, Hawthorne. I obviously Emily, Dakota, all the people over there are great. So I think I'm gonna try and get Emily and or Hawthorne Jim to do some stuff too, leading up to that. But I'll get that posted and shared out there. If you guys are local, it'll be fun to see you, meet you, and yeah, we'll try and be as responsible as possible with Hawthorne's money and hope to make the listeners some
Wait a
money there.
minute. Wait
So
a minute. Wait a minute. Let me stop you right there. Mark responsible. Can we be just let's maybe keep the expectations in check just a little bit. Update the stray counter.
okay, well, in fairness, uh, right now Caleb is confirmed, and myself, I'm confirmed. Mark is at the 90% mark, and he was at 95% a couple weeks ago.
So we can call him
So
90% Mark. That's actually not a terrible nickname.
I mean, 90% mark, but because I prefer 80% mark because he loves a bit of 4 to 5. But
That'll work.
you know, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, this will be fun. So I'll get the info shared out there on Twitter and everything. And I'll have a link in the description of the podcast as well as of the YouTube. So yeah, like I said, we're everywhere. We're gonna be everywhere, right? Maybe not as everywhere as Andrew is sometimes. I know you got the Pollock Report stuff you do during Derby season. You got your site that you update. Obviously, you got winners and whiners and diners and drives, and all that other stuff going. But yeah, I think it's going to be a real fun summer. Andrew, you already, thought you were Michael Jordan and posted that you were back. So we
So
saw that.
the funniest thing about that is it got a rise out of exactly the people I wanted it to get a rise out of. And those people who think they live rent free in the heads of the people posting that stuff, it's actually the other way around. Some people are very, very predictable. But in case you missed it, yes, I will be back in the pink sheet this coming summer, starting with the 4-day Belmont Stakes Racing Festival in a couple of weeks. It's a lot of fun to do this. Last summer did not go the way I wanted it to go, both personally and professionally. I will leave it right there. If you want the full story, come find me. Regardless, though, I'm excited to be back. It's always a lot of fun to be able to do that. And given the way last year went and the year before that, where I picked 17 winners in the last 3.25 days of the meet and somehow lost ground on Liam Durbin, I got unfinished business. And I'm looking forward to getting back there, doing something that I've shown I know how to do, and defending my record of 142 top pick winners at Saratoga. If anybody out there doesn't like that I have that record, they can try to beat it.
I mean, can they though?
It averages about 3.5 winners a day. Not impossible. Just you can't have any offers. You can survive with a couple of one firsts over the course of the meet because those wind up getting canceled out by the good days. But generally speaking, you need at least 3 a day in order to win your paper. You need about 3.25 a day to be able to contend for the all media title, which, to be fair, matters in the minds of about 15 to 20 people and is nowhere near as prestigious as it used to be when all of the New York City outlets had 5 or 6 handicappers doing this stuff. But it's something that I still hold very important. I'm a traditionalist. I grew up at this place. If it doesn't matter to you, it doesn't have to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be a blast. I'm really excited for this summer. I've I don't want to say I've taken a step back, but I definitely with some of these later Derby preps and stuff. I I've slowed down a little bit.
It's
And I
okay.
don't. And yeah, I took it. Like I said, like Preakness, and we'll talk Preakness briefly.
I think we have to talk Preakness briefly based on something you don't want to admit, but that we're going to need to go back to.
Yeah. But so Preakness was probably the Triple Crown day that I've bet the absolute least on in in basically all my years of playing the horses. I mean, I'm going back. Well, I'm not. I don't have to go back that far, as we all know. But
Yes, you don't have to date yourself like the rest of us.
I probably bet. Yeah, I bet more every other time. I think I bet 2 pick 5s that entire weekend, and they were not large pick 5s. They were like $18 tickets, both times. And that was about it. I think the weather definitely played a big part in it. I think I'm just trying to be, I'm trying to be more judicious about things because, we handicap all this stuff, we talk about all this stuff, and I'm not going to sit here and say, if I handicap something, I want to bet it, right? I think all of us are like that, and it does take discipline in, hey, handicapping this and realizing I don't have a great opinion, and not betting it, or I just don't really like the sequence, or there, if I land on too much chalk, generally I'm like, okay, I have to question myself a little bit, like, am I just being lazy, and like, or is this just a real bad sequence to bet, and kind of go through that way.
So
So
just to be clear, you agree with me that there are too many pick fives and pick fours on big days.
no,
Thank you.
there
All I needed. That's all I needed. I win.
the more pick fives and pick fours they are, the better, because then you have a better selection of what you want to play.
Nope, I
Yeah,
win.
I
And
know
you will
you,
never, ever,
say,
ever, ever, ever tell me
I
otherwise.
know you say it doesn't work that way in practice, and I'm not saying that you have an argument for, but I think more choice is always better than less choice, when it comes to those. Mark was going pretty crazy saying that there should be rolling pick fives,
Yeah,
but
we can agree that's way too much. We can come
but
to a common ground on that.
yeah, but yeah, I do think that sometimes, if anything, sometimes there's too few. Especially just because when you think about it, it's the low takeout wager, and so it's like, of course, there's only one of them, right?
Yep.
But yeah, we can. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about that. Talk about pick fives and other stuff as we kind of go along. But yeah, I honestly, I put my pick five in, Andrew, and I didn't watch any of the races. The only race I watched was the actual Preakness, and so I don't really have too much to say about the Preakness Day in general. I was out and about. I wasn't, you know, life happens, and as much as I do enjoy being the degenerate at the family party who just goes around the corner staring at his phone the entire time. That wasn't me this time. I will say though, I do remember one time. It was a Saturday, and I told my wife, we have like this. There's like this like winery that has like a restaurant, and has like a tasting room and all other places, and so we do wine. We get like, we're part of a wine club. We do like a monthly tasting and stuff. It's really just for us to like have a date night, get out. So you get a free wine tasting every month. You get a couple bottles of wine, and so Saturday we're going, and we're doing this wine tasting, and so I'm drinking wine, and I love this place because like you get through your like 6 or 8 tastings or whatever, and then they always ask if you want to try anything, and then like of course you're like, well, yeah, let me try the most expensive thing, and then they give you a big old heavy pour, right? Like because like they don't care, right? They're just there to taste their give people the wine, and like there was one lady in particular. She actually left the company, but
Oh
while she was
no.
there, she I think she knew we were like one of the few people that tipped. So she would just like sit there and talk to us and just continuously pour. She'd be like, "Well, what else?" I'm like, "Oh, we'll have this." "Oh, well, what else?" After we'd finish it, and next thing you know, it's like we basically had a double tasting. I mean, my wife and I, like, we were gonna go like have dinner and have wine, but we're like, I think we should probably just not drink and maybe just
Yeah.
get dinner. But anyways, I registered for one of the Naira Bets contests, the like $300 ones,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you, wine Josh, not to be confused with bartender Josh, but wine Josh. He's a pretty good Naira Bets contest player, because that was my best finish ever, and to the point where I was like, I don't know, maybe I need to play from the tasting room a little bit more often.
Yeah, I bet
Um,
that went over really, really well at home.
Well, when I told her how much money I won, she was a little happier.
That
But
does soothe a little bit. Yeah, it's now life happens, and we can't always be the degenerates that we want to be. I didn't play a ton. on Preakness Day. When I did, I generally ran second. I loved Prevalence in the Maryland Sprint, ran second behind Super Chow, who, Josh, you liked a fair bit. I loved Whitty in the Jim McKay Turf Sprint, got exactly the trip I was hoping he'd get, ran big, second best. I used Mystic Dan in the Preakness, second best. Was a long day of running second a lot. And so, having said that, Josh, I gave you some props with Super Chow. Whether you want them or not, I'm giving you props for Seize the Gray because that is not a horse I could have come up with. That is a horse that you gave out, not just on our show, but also on the live stream that we did with Matthew and with Mark. That was a genuine, honest to God, great call by you saying, hey, you don't want to ignore this horse. Well, the Preakness field did ignore that horse because they let him get loose on the lead. Mystic Dan ran his race. Catching Freedom ran fine. Neither of them were able to get to Seize the Gray, who got to the front and improved his positioning. And I'm reminded of something that I believe it was Kurt Hoover, my old HRTV and TVG colleague, once said. And that is Wayne Lucas has made a lot of money putting speed horses on the lead. And that's exactly what happened on Saturday at Pimlico when Seize the Gray wound up going to the front and not stopping. And if you backed him, you got 9-1.
Yeah, there. I think there was a story that came out. They interviewed Torres, the jockey, afterwards,
Yeah.
and someone they basically asked him, like, "Oh, were those the tactics? Like, is that what D Wayne wanted you to do?" And he basically was like, "Well, I didn't get a chance to talk to Mr. Lucas before the race, but that just seemed like the right thing to do in this race, and so I took him to the lead." And it was funny because when I was looking at the race originally, and I think what the point I was basically making was, I thought Imagination was your clear leader, and this didn't work out that way,
That was the
but
one thing in the Preakness I was right about. My bold prediction was Imagination missing the board, and he didn't fire at all whatsoever. There are people on Twitter that are saying he was a lead blocker for Lucas's horses. I don't know if I believe that. I think that's just a case of people knowing Baffert and Lucas are a lot friendlier now than they were 20 years ago. And there was a picture of them on the backside. And of course, horse racing Twitter needing to be conspiratorial about absolutely everything.
yeah, so yeah, the way I saw it kind of going was I thought Imagination was the clear leader, and if you've seen some of Imagination's previous races, it seems like maybe he's got some quit in him. I thought that this field was very soft, and that even if there was a bit of quit, that maybe the horse would still be good enough, which is why it was my top pick in my A. But I thought the horse that looked like would sit in second was going to be Seize the Gray, and I thought, hey, if this horse quits, you got Seize the Gray, who's going to be in second and is going to get the first run. And then you have, I think the best horse in the race, Mystic Dan, it should run his race and close. And I think that's what happened. Mystic Dan ran his race. I think he got 100 buyers still, or 99 buyers,
Yeah.
somewhere around there, and which is what he's been running. So he didn't move forward, but he also didn't regress. And I just think that this was a case of a horse who took to the track, took to the slop, and had it all his own way on the front end, and Seize the Gray getting an easy lead, and not necessarily a slow lead.
No,
I think the fractions were honest.
moderate, moderate.
Yeah. So, but still, I mean, he was on the front end, and he just didn't stop.
No. And it's one of those instances where, there's nothing wrong with running second in a grade one. As a culture, I feel like we ignore everybody but the winner from those races. But also, as said by about 9,000 different people after the race was run, Josh, did you know that the top three finishers in the Preakness all ran 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, that was
It's almost like horses can run more than they're given the opportunity to. Shocker.
that was really cool. That was cool to see. Obviously, it was cool to see the Pat Day Mile winner go win the Preakness. I know Mark had mentioned a previous Pat Day Mile winner that was my favorite horse of all time because it's the
Funny
horse that
Duck.
got me hooked. Yep, Funny Duck, who won in the slop in the Pat Day Mile. So yeah, it was really cool to see Torres win, see Cesar Gray win. Congratulations to all 7,526 owners of Cesar Gray as part of my racehorse. And Andrew, I'll tell you, um, the board was rather flat in the race. Obviously with the scratch of Muth, but I don't think that anybody went off at a huge price, right? Wasn't the longest price like 15 to 1 or 18 to 1 or something?
There, Mugatu, I believe, was 18 to 1. Look, I gave out Uncle Heavy on this show at 20 to 1 on the morning line. I was willing to fire at about 12 to 1 or so. And even 10 to 1, I probably still have something on the horse. That horse got bet all the way down to 6 to 1 or 7 to 1. What are we doing here? Like, there's no way that horse should have been that short. At 12 to 1, I love the horse. 6 to 1, no, thank you. The only thing that you can say about Uncle Heavy is he beat imagination. That's pretty much it. And that was one of those instances where I feel like the public outsmarted itself because Uncle Heavy had a fair bit going for him. He did need to step forward. Those types of horses are often really good plays at 12 to 1, 15 to 1, which is what I figured Uncle Heavy would go off at. On Friday, when they started showing the Preakness odds and Uncle Heavy was 6 to 1 or 7 to 1, you know this from the group chat, Josh. I was going, who in their right mind is betting this horse at this price? The lesson, as always, watch the tote board. It is the most valuable source of information you have. Adjust accordingly if you need to.
Yeah, it was. I didn't get it. Like I said, I didn't see Uncle Heavy. I didn't see what you saw in that horse. But yeah, the price was shocking. It reminded me a little. It was funny because we had talked about earlier the week. We had talked about Fenwick,
Yep.
right? And how Fenwick went off at a real short price, and then what was the other horse?
There were a couple from last year, Coffee with Chris and Chase the Chaos. Both should have been 50 to 1, and they were 10 to 1. I don't know what's in the water in Baltimore. I know that's one of the things they are looking to tackle with the renovation, but the money made absolutely no sense in some aspects of that race. At the top end, I understand it. The top 2 or 3 betting choices generally made sense, but some of that betting money didn't make any sense at all whatsoever.
Yeah. Um, anything else? Anything else on the Preakness?
Nothing really all that much on the Preakness, just the reminder that yes, horses can run back on 2 weeks rest and perform well. Also, Nicole Russo from the Daily Racing Forum wrote an outstanding piece on the impact of Arrogate, the late great Arrogate, who was the sire, of course, of Seize the Gray. He had, I believe, only 3 crops, and his horses were runners. That is a monumental loss to the breeding industry because not only are his horses runners, they can stay a distance of ground. It appears as though they're generally sound, though, to be fair, a couple of those horses are trained by Wayne Lucas, who runs his horses a fair bit. Secret Oath, daughter of Arrogate, another D. Wayne Lucas trainee that ran a ton in her 3-year-old campaign. Hopefully, he's got a son or two that can pick up the mantle and basically keep his line alive, because I feel like that would be something that would benefit the breed long term, as opposed to breeding 300 horses by the same sire in hopes that you get a horse that goes 9-3 at a 2-year-old sale.
Awesome. What else? What else you got going on this week? I mean, like I said, this is kind of an off week with racing. I'm sure I'll find some trouble to get myself into.
You
Obviously,
usually do, Josh.
Assiniboia Downs. I played that earlier this week, and I'll definitely play that next week at night. There's Hawthorne does a contest on Sunday. Every Sunday, it's $100 cash. You basically go to one of the OTBs, you put $100 cash. They give you a cash card that's got $100 on it. bet only Hawthorne, and whoever wins, I think there's like a betting credit you win among the three or four participating OTBs, and then they're going to have like a winners contest. If you win one of these contests, I think they're going to have like a 10,000 like a BCBC seed or
Oh, nice.
$10,000 or something for if you win one of these contests, and then they have the larger contest. I pulled it up, but because we have the long weekend, I figured, hey, maybe on Sunday I'll go head down to the OTB down here and go play in one of those. But
Yeah. Sunday, I've got a family party at my fiance's family's house that I am going to need to help run things for.
hmm,
A number of members of her family have overextended themselves lately. I have already told several people, your job on Sunday is to sit there in that couch and do nothing. So that's going to be me on Sunday. On Friday, of course, as I've mentioned, I'll be sitting down with Chase, the Wolf of Oaklawn, for his show and talking about Saturday's program at Belmont at the Big A. That'll be a blast. I'm also finishing up my annual project for my fiance's fifth grade promotion ceremony, where her kids' families all send photos in of their kids through the years. I'm most of the way done with that, and that's turning out to be something that I hope is going to make parents absolutely bawl their eyes out in a couple of weeks. That's my goal. I want to make the maximum number of parents cry their eyes out at their fifth grade promotion ceremonies for their child or loved one or whatever the case may be. So, very much interested in that. That's going to be something that I think is going to turn out really well. And that's something that I'm grateful to be able to spend some time doing every May or so when photos start rolling in and it becomes promotion time right before the summer.
awesome. Yeah, and I just pulled up the rules for the contest. It's actually a really cool contest. So
They
it's
run good contests there.
$100, and all you have to do is you make any wagers on Hawthorne. You have to bet a minimum of $100 on it, and you keep what you win. It's cash, and the biggest bankroll. First place is $200 in free wagers and a $50 food and beverage credit. Then $100, $50, $50 down to fifth place. Entry to a championship for the top two prizes, and those are going to be a $10,000 cash prize contest in October. So, yeah, I'm going to try and get down there this Sunday for that. And it looks like they're offering it at a bunch of OTBs. So maybe I'll go to the bougie OTB and get a steak or something.
Oh, the bougie OTB.
Yeah, we have a bougie OTB over here that's in a really, really nice restaurant that I really like. Um, yeah, maybe
Nice.
that's where I'll head to. So, but I think that's gonna do it for us here on Drankin' Champagne. Yeah, I'm reusing the Shot Tin music. Shoot me. Uh,
Hey, you got to be shot-tinning me.
Obviously, check us out at onthewronglead.com, at wrong_lead. Andrew is at Andrew Champagne, andrewchampagne.com. Winnersandwiners.com, question mark. And then obviously, I'm at Cherry Drank. Check us out at Hawthorne if you're around, and check us out this summer because we're going to be everywhere. Have a good week, guys.